25th regular meeting of the Medford City Council, June 21st, 2022 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Carriello.
Present.
Councilor Collins.
Present.
Councilor Knight.
Present.
Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Sang.
Present.
President Morrell has informed us she's going to be absent. Vice President Bears.
Present, 6 present, 1 absent. Please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I just, before we start, want to inform the public, President Morrell and her family have contracted COVID. That's why she's not able to be here tonight. We are sending her our best wishes and hope to have her back with us very soon.
Vice President Bears.
Councilor Collins.
Motion to suspend the rules to take petitions, presentations, and similar papers, and then public participation.
Motion to suspend the rules to take petitions, presentations, and similar papers, followed by public participation by Councilor Collins, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. 22-366, City of Medford, notice of a public hearing. Medford City Council will hold a public hearing in the Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George P. Hassett Drive, Medford, and via Zoom on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. A link to be posted no later than Friday, June 17th, 2022, on a petition from the Ford on the Meadow, Barry Rafferty, 61 Locust Street, Medford, 02155, for a special permit to amend its hours of operations in accordance with Medford zoning ordinance, chapter 94, 7.2.1, to operate extended hours at its business at 61 Locust Street, Medford, MA. Site being located in a mixed-use zoning district as follows: 11 p.m. Extended hours of operation requested, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Sundays through Saturdays. Petition and plan may be seen in the office of the city clerk, room 103, Medford City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts. Call 781-393-2425 for any aids and accommodations. This by order of the city council. Adam Hurtubise, city clerk. Advertised in the Medford Transcript, June 2nd and June 9th. Mr. Rafferty, if you give us a short presentation, and then we will open the hearing.
Good evening, all. We simply want to extend our hours to 1 a.m. I'm not saying that we actually will open until 1 a.m. on 7 nights a week. We will do so when the need arises. But you know, there are times where, you know, the Celtics last week or the week before last, you know, it runs past 11 p.m. and we're in a situation where we have to close early and ask people to leave before the game's over. So we'd like to avoid that.
Thank you, Mr. Rafferty. As this is a public hearing, I'm opening the public hearing to people in favor of the petition. Could you give us your name and address?
Barry Rafferty, 51 Crocker Road, Medford.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor of the petition? Seeing none, this portion of the hearing is closed. Now open to anyone in opposition to the petition. Seeing none, this portion of the hearing is closed. Now open it to members of the council for questions. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rafferty for being here this evening. He's actually here at our behest and our request. Previously, he was here before us to get a common victuals license to open up his restaurant. And we had a little bit of discussion about what was going to be in the menu and the like, and where it's an establishment that serves alcohol. He has received an alcohol permit from Liquor Licensing Commission. That license goes to 1 a.m. But here in the city of Medford, in order to get extended hours, you need to come before the council. So Mr. Rafferty, in his true wisdom, is actually following the protocols and processes that are in place here in the community. I commend him for complying. I am someone who really likes the Celtics and hate getting thrown out in the middle of a game. So I certainly support this measure wholeheartedly. From what I understand, there's been quite a buzz about the business around the community. A lot of people are saying good things about it, and I wish you the best of luck, sir.
Thanks,
it's
sir.
also very nice to see someone who resides in the community to invest their hard-earned dollars in this community and open up a business here. So me as one councilor, and I'm sure my colleagues behind the rail, I'm more than happy and willing to help you out in any endeavor that you need moving forward to make sure that this is a smooth transition for you as you open this
Thank you,
establishment.
Councillor.
But I support it wholeheartedly, Mr. President. I'd offer the motion to waive the waiting period.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate Mr. Rafferty. I know I'll support and second Councilor Knight's motion to waive and move forward. I hope you'll be in front of the council asking for a special time permit for the World Cup when it's in Dubai. So if we can open up at 2 a.m. And close at 10 a.m, I would appreciate it.
I mean,
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you can, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We won't be watching Italy, but
Thank you, Counselor Scarpelli. On the motion of Counselor Knight to waive the public comment period and approve, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Scarpelli. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
I'd like now to go, just if we could, yes, exactly. So I'd like to move to public participation for folks who were, basically, we had to move to our regular meeting on Zoom. So if there's anyone on public participation at this point who'd like to speak to the public schools budget, anyone who'd like to speak in public participation to the schools budget? Any hands online? I have one hand online. Paul Garrity, please give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Garrity. I live at Cedar Road in Medford, Mass. Basically, it's a little bit broader. It includes the school budget as well as the city budgets. I wanted to speak specifically to the recommendations Councilor Bear brought forward at the June 14th meeting. There was a couple of portions. One was the addressing the long-term budget needs. I am in full agreement with that. We really need to have a systematic process to capture, analyze, plan, and manage the delivery and the cost of all city services and school activities. And further, I believe that we need to institute a long-term revenue policy. Many times we've, I've had discussions with councils indicating that a long-term plan might resolve itself around a redevelopment authority or something along that side that could develop the resources. Mr. Gav could look at the status of air rights of Wellington Circle and basically allow the city to start to control its own destiny by controlling land uses. Why I brought the two long-term, it brought me to the short-term. I really believe that making rash decisions right now, given the fact that we seem to be up against the wall, I seriously believe that what I'm looking at here is a short-term budget deficit trying to be resolved with a possible long-term permanent tax increase. I would offer that we look at a short-term deficit with a short-term solution. Can we identify the funds and whether it be free cash, unused budgets, ARPA funds, whatever, and apply them first. And I think at that point, we need to take a serious look at do we deliver what's mandated and obligated under contract to be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity. I see Adam with their hand raised. Please give us your full name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Jessica Healy, Forelock Road in Medford. I just had a question about the budget for the school and wondering if if they put in any budget regarding security for the schools. I'm kind of concerned when I heard Mr. Murphy say, when Mr. Carviello asked about, how are the locks in the schools, the cameras, and he said that we could continue to improve on that. We don't have time to improve on that. We have to improve on it now with everything going on. God forbid anything ever happened. At my son's school, at the Brooks School, a year or two ago, someone did walk into the school. Thankfully, the guy didn't have any bad intention in that way. They were able to get him to leave, but he was very upset, walked right in the school and with the kids during recess coming in. So I don't know if anyone's looking into the Guardian program or that they have down in Florida and in Texas. I don't know if anyone's looking into that, but I don't know if anyone's thinking of a budget for security at the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. I can personally, just from reading the book, I know that there is money budgeted for security. I do also know that there was a reluctance around specifics. I don't know if members of our school administration would like to maybe provide any further context to this question. I do think the intent was to avoid specifics for very clear reasons.
All right, point of information.
Councilor Scarpelli.
I think that is important, that we're very delicate when it comes to, I know some people want specifics and that's very dangerous to do. I know, Mr. Murphy, what you're saying. So it's not, we have to understand that we can't get into details of our security protocol because all we're doing is announcing possibly to the people with bad intentions. So we have to be very careful. It's a fine line that we have to walk. So I just want to share that with all the viewers and the people that are here. Just be understanding with that. I know what we're saying. We ask questions about security. It is a priority, both I think for the city council and the school committee. So I just wanted to share my view with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli, and maybe Mr. Murphy, as you answer, you can provide some contact
I
information.
want to thank Councilor Scarpelli for elucidating that point, because that is in fact why I was reluctant in our earlier session to get into any greater specificity. And my comment in response to Councilor Carviallo was that this is something that we always need to be continuously improving, because there are risks and there are threats that evolve over time. And so there will never reach a point at which we can say we have now solved our security. Not even saying we have a security issue per se, but
Right.
we've solved the security issue. We never have to revisit
And I
it.
believe we'll look at a capital money.
Correct, yeah, and from a
for-
budgeting
right.
perspective, a lot of the investments that we will make over the coming fiscal year to improve our security structure will be on the capital expense side, which is why it's not necessarily itemized within the operating budget. But again, to Councilor Scarpelli's point, there's a significant amount of investment and work that we do to ensure that our school communities are safe. And there are pieces of that we talk about and identify publicly, and there are pieces of it that we do not, for the exact reasons that Councilor Scarpelli said.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Could you just give your email in case anyone has follow-up questions that may be able to be answered outside of a public session?
Absolutely. And so my email, you said?
Yes.
D Murphy, as in David Murphy, at medford.k12.ma.us. It's also on the Medford Public Schools website, and certainly can reach out to myself or any building principal. All of our school administrators who I know our families and caregivers are very familiar with and have ongoing discourse and conversation with. All of our building administrators are eager to talk with families to make sure that that their students are not just safe, but the families know that they're safe and feel safe, so that they can thrive in the learning environments in which they are going to school.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Murphy. Any further public comment regarding the Medford Public Schools budget at this time? Not seeing any. We will, of course, be meeting next week as well, and we invite all public participation at all of our meetings. Yes. Yes, paper 22-388. Yes, of course. Paper 22-388 under suspension. Dear Mr. Hurtubise, says managing agent for Simmons Properties LLC, which owns the properties known as 196 on 200 Boston Avenue, herefore known as The Properties. Cummings Properties LLC requests that the city change the zoning district destination for the properties from industrial to office 2. Please advise as to whether you will require any additional action or information from the owner in connection with this petition. I'm readily available should questions or other reasons for further discussion arise. Thank you sincerely. Cummings Properties LLC, Derek Russell, Vice President of Operations. And again, this is the 196 and 200 Boston Avenue properties. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Michael Avaney. My address is 200 West Cummings Park, Woburn. I'm here tonight representing Cummings Properties, who represents Simmons Properties LLC on behalf of the Cummings Foundation. Yes, and consistent with what you just said, consistent with our June 22nd letter to the city clerk, we respectfully request that the city council change the zoning district designation for the properties at 196 and 200 Boston Ave from industrial, as they are today, to the newly created Office 2 district. As you may be aware, we at Cummings Properties considered a redevelopment project at 200 Boston Ave just last year, and this zoning district change could be beneficial when the time comes for us to reconsider that project again. So we would I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have on our request.
Thank you. I'll go to Councilor Knight, then Councilor Carviallo.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Is it Devaney?
Avaney.
Thank you for being here today. Mr. President, by way of history, I believe this O2 district was something that we created through our zoning recodification. And
First one in 60 years, I believe.
right, and it was well, we did Stations Landing, but this parcel was actually the parcel that we had in mind when we started discussing this about a redevelopment opportunity. Councilor Carviallo and our Economic Development Director spoke at great length about what we can do to bring biotech into this community. And one of the things was to create this Office 2 district and create some dimensional requirements that might meet some of the needs that developers like this gentleman have. I was wondering if you could tell us how many number of jobs this would create in construction and also permanently once the facility is complete.
Great question. It just depends on basically how big it winds up being. We were looking at 40,000 square feet last year, and, you know, just depends on what company takes it. You know, it could be 100, 200 people that work there. Construction jobs could be very similar, although they're short-term, as you know.
So we're looking at 1 to 200 short-term jobs that pay a good wage, and then
Exactly.
1 to 200 long-term jobs that also pay a good wage. For people that
Exactly.
work in this type of industry will be able to live in the community also.
Yes, exactly. You know, the biotech industry, as you know, has exploded, and that's exactly what we're aiming for.
And also, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how much money this would generate for the city in permitting fees and also increased tax revenues.
It's a great question. I don't know the tax revenue one, but I think the project itself was in the 10 to $15 million range for the construction, shell and core construction, which I believe the permit fees now are 15 per thousand. So some quick math, it was probably, you know, $150,000 in permit fees potentially. And then again, you do tenant fit ups and then you get to add more to that as time goes on. So, but unfortunately, I'm an architect, not a tax guy.
Just last week, Mr. President, we had a neighbor of this parcel come to us with a similar request. They informed us that they'd be able to create a very similar aspect of jobs and growth. Growth was a little bit bigger, it was a lot larger parcel. Where we're looking at $3.3 million in permitting fees and $2.9 million in increased property tax revenues. This project here, it should go part and parcel with the approval that we just lended last week. If we're going to redevelop, let's redevelop the whole area at once. We also see a project that's going to be taking place down at Walkman Court, the other side of the train tracks. So with some proper planning in the next, 12 to 18 months, we could see significant expanded tax base down there, some new jobs, as well as some revitalized curb appeal down in an area that's somewhat run down and blighted. So this is something that I think is good for our community and I support a lot of it.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you for coming here. Like Councilor Knight mentioned, brings jobs to the area and increased tax revenue. And like you said, Mr. Walsh was here last week. Is your group going to be working with his group? So we don't have two different type buildings, or maybe we could, they could kind of work in conjunction and make the aesthetically look a lot more pleasing if the two buildings are somewhat look alike.
Interesting concept.
I know John's stuff got to work
They're
with.
two different parcels,
Yeah.
right? I don't know what Mr. Walsh's intentions are there.
Yeah.
We had presented a really contemporary addition on top of addition to the existing 200 Boston Ave building, which was a 1920s converted mattress factory, right?
Yep.
And we were going to make it a very contemporary thing. We'd got through the Community Development Board twice with the project, and they really loved it. It was, bringing the curb appeal that you mentioned and some community amenities space down below. Actually, I had spoken to Mr. Rafferty about it at one point in time. So yes, hopefully there's a synergy with it. I don't know his schedule. Our schedule is kind of pushed back a little bit because we didn't kind of get where we needed to be last year.
Yeah.
But I would envision the same type of structure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would
And
be really nice.
keeps the curb appeal good. As we move forward, so, here we are, we've got 2 in 2 weeks, and there's something that this council has worked on for a while, and we finally did it. But now we need to step up because the process on housing for people, because I'm getting calls from people saying, hey, we'd like to come here, but, we're a little concerned about, bringing employees here, where they're going to live. We've got housing projects on the table that I think need to be sped up to meet the demands of these new companies coming in. You've got 2 here. You've got that RISE project on Mystic Valley Parkway ready, is moving along. You got a couple of other companies showing interest here. So if you want people to come to the community, a lot of them want to live in the community that they work in. So I think, we've got to step up that, the housing end of it. And again, when you bring people to the community, more businesses come to the community. Because I'd say that's been a long, thing. I've been on many commissions here, and people talk about all the things that they want in the community. Stores, you want this. Well, in order to get those things, you have to have people. Businesses want to come where there's people. And once we start increasing our housing stock, you'll start to see more business come. 5 years ago, there wasn't an open storefront in the city of Medford. Now they're all over the place. And it's not, it's not anyone's fault. The pandemic had it, but to do it, but it's been 3 or 4 years now, and we really haven't done anything. And I'm happy that we're finally starting to pick up the pace and catch up with the other cities, because all the other cities around us are developed, and we're the last batch in here. And I don't want us to miss the wave that's going to come through. So I'm happy you're here tonight. And again, hopefully we'll see more coming down the line. But we also need to start looking at our housing stock for people that want to live in this community and work here. Again, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, Vice President Bears, and thank you, Mr. Rainey, for being here tonight. I would definitely concur with everything Councilor Carviallo just said. I hope that this could be the start of a really positive flywheel or feedback loop between bringing good jobs to our community, updating or using our updated zoning code to really grease the wheels of that, and then following up with making sure that we have the developments needed to house all this positive new development and movement in our community. So if this is, I believe if our next move is to report this out to the Community Development Board, I would make a motion to do that. And then I would look forward to hopefully approving it when it comes back our way.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Yeah, Chapter 40A rules here, so we have to send this to Community Development Board, and then they'll take a look at it. And it sounds like they've taken a look at it before, so they may have some positive looks. I do want to recognize that we do have our Director of Planning Development and Sustainability, Alicia Hunt, as well as our Economic Development Director, Victor Schrader. I don't know if either of you would like to say anything at this time. You can wave at me and I'll unmute you. Seeing none. Okay, we got Alicia. All right. Alicia Hunt, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. President. 41 Wasson Street in Medford. I just wanted to let the council know and the public know that we have in fact been, our office, myself and Director Schrader have been meeting with the Cummings staff as well as the applicants from the previous week about these changes. We think this is a good idea. I've actually been discussing this with our comprehensive plan consultants, and we are looking forward to this. We have tentatively scheduled a public hearing for July 14th with the CD board. That does need to be duly noticed. So that's why it's actually so long from right now, is in order for us to meet the newspaper schedule. And we'll be working with the clerk to make sure the duly notice of the city council meeting, that they all line up together. But we are in favor of this. If you would like to see a map, we have the map. Director Schrader has the map of this location, but I think you're all very familiar with what this location is. And so I don't need to belabor the evening.
Just to confirm, Director Hunt, are you saying that we can't refer this to Community Development Board tonight?
No, you should refer it tonight.
Oh, okay. The
Right.
public hearing is up to Community Development Board. Got
We
it.
are public hearing. It will then, for the process, the Community Development Board will issue a recommendation, and the City Council will also hold a public hearing after that fact to review the recommendation and to vote on the matter. So both of those, the Community Development Board meeting and that City Council meeting will need to be publicly noticed as public hearings.
Thank you, Director Hunt. I'm not usually in the hot seat here as I'm the Vice President, so I appreciate your correction. Was there a motion, Councilor Collins, to refer to Community Development Board? On the motion of Councilor Collins to refer to the Community Development Board, seconded by Councilor Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we need a roll call? All right, roll call.
Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell is absent. Vice President Bear.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. Counselor Collins.
While we're on this one, okay.
Counselor Collins.
While we're under suspension, motion to take paper 22400 followed by 22408.
All right, on the motion of Counselor Collins to take paper 22400 and 22408.
Thank you very much.
Seconded by, thank you. Seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 22-400 to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council, City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts, 02155, re food truck permitting. Dear President Morel and members of the City Council, on behalf of the below entity, I respectfully submit to the City Council following request for a food truck permit in the City of Medford. In addition to City Council approval, vendors are required to adhere to Health Department food safety requirements. The Well Coffee House, dates and times, every Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. in June and July, 21 to 24 calendar days. Location, Riverside Plaza, Riverside Avenue. Event, pop-up coffee service. Enclosed, please find a copy of the current menu by the Well Coffee House. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brianna Legel-Kern, Mayor. I think we would like to hear from the petitioner.
Hi, my name is Matt Love. I live at 27 Washington Avenue in Winthrop, Massachusetts. Currently, we have 3 different locations: downtown Boston, East Boston, and Everett, where we have our brick and mortar. And we are currently looking at more locations in downtown Boston in the Fenway area and in another location in East Boston. And we are interested in doing some basic reconnaissance, but also seeing if a place like ours would be welcomed and useful in this community. We're a nonprofit that supports other local nonprofits. Currently, we're working with Soccer Without Borders as we bring more awareness of their organization, and then also we do a portion of the proceeds that go to support that local nonprofit. We work with each nonprofit in the communities that we're involved in, and we're just hoping that maybe Medford might be a location that we could possibly come to.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilor Scarpelli.
I appreciate the gentleman coming forward. I appreciate that some of the funding is going to nonprofits, and I appreciate that. But I think that my reservation to all the food trucks right now, especially with the pandemic just passing, is the commitment to our brick and mortar and what would happen with you taking a certain percentage away from our brick and mortar. I think that's something that before I make my vote, I'd like to hear more of the questions that are coming out, but I'm committed to our brick and mortar businesses that have committed to this community, especially during the most difficult times, and bringing an outside entity into a neighborhood that's going to directly compete with our brick and mortar and their sustainability throughout this process and their bounce back. I think that that's my hesitation with all the food truck industry and these pop-up events, because I think it, if we look at neighboring coffee houses and you take 20% of their business from 7 to 11, it really is going to hurt their bottom line, and their bottom line has a lot to do with the fees and permits requests and the limits that they have to live with while being a brick and mortar, as you well know. So, I'd like to, what your thought as both the brick and mortar and a pop-up vendor, how would that impact your event if next door a coffee establishment popped up a cart, maybe half a mile from your location?
Yeah, well, if half a mile away is quite a ways, and I don't think there's anything directly located near the Riverside Plaza where we're wanting to go. I totally understand that the desire for local businesses to be thriving. I don't know if what we would be as in competition would be something that would be even noticeable.
That's yet to be seen until, how do we
True.
find out? We find out when Donuts of the Difference calls us and says, George, we have people just coming in buying donuts, but they're not buying their coffee because they're going to the coffee cart down the street. So that's my reservation. So I appreciate your honesty. I just wanted to be upfront and honest with you. These are my reservations. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for coming here. Where in Riverside Plaza are you looking to go?
It's right on the corner. It's a large area that's,
Well, Riverside Plaza is a pretty big plaza.
it's closer to, I'm trying to think, near the main road that's right off the side.
Salem Street or
Salem Street.
High Street, Salem Street or Riverside Avenue?
Well, Riverside Plaza is right.
So, so right in the square you're looking to go.
Correct.
Wait, so you got a donut shop across the street.
You have Mike's Pastry, you have
You got Mike's
Dunkin'
Pastry,
Donuts,
you got a Dunkin' Donuts.
and then you have,
That I just think off, my head, so.
and the Lighthouse Cafe, so
I mean, that's,
I don't,
as a responsible counselor here, I mean,
modern pastry.
to put a food truck up right across the street from a coffee and donut shop is kind of slapping their face. And they say, that's no reflection on you, but, I mean, how would you like it if I opened up, right, they're a brick and mortar, they've been there for, as many years as I can remember. And now we're letting someone come in and, non-brick and mortar go across the street. So again, it's got nothing to do with personally or your business, so that you do, I'm glad with that your money goes to nonprofits, but you have to understand the position we're in.
Okay.
And I think we need a little more information before we can make a decision on this. Exactly where in the plaza. You want to just go right in the little plaza there with the chairs and everything at?
Yes.
I
I think our main hope is just to see if this.
mean, that's on city property. That's city property. I don't ever remember a business going on city property before, on a regular basis. I mean, who's going to cover the insurance on that? Is it the insurance on you or the insurance on the city?
I know we'll have to cover our own insurance.
But I can't remember the last time the city allowed a business to open up on city property. Maybe someone could enlighten me on that.
Councilor Carpelli, we do have Mr. Schrader. I don't know if he's involved in this at all.
Oh, yeah, if he can give some insight, that's.
I don't know, I think if you could speak to this or not, but you are the Economic Development Director, so.
Yes, thank you, councilors. Good evening. We did meet with the proponent and ask them some questions about their concept. I think Councilor Scarpelli's comments are very relevant. We certainly want to support our brick and mortar businesses as they're recovering from the pandemic. It's a pretty limited run that they're asking for, and we do think there is more demand for coffee in the square than is being provided, but I think those are great comments, and we should be thinking about our permanent brick and mortar businesses first. And Councilor Caraviello, we could look into that a little further. For a food truck, they technically do park on the right of way, but in terms of being in a park space like this, it's not uncommon. Folks are operating in DCR property or city-owned property from time to time.
We got a point of information.
In looking at the application that's before us versus the issue that we're discussing here, we're talking about a food truck permit. This isn't a food truck, this is a push cart. The city of Medford has an ordinance that prohibits push cart services. Right, so whether or not we're for it or against it or anything else, this application isn't being presented to the council or the body in the right scope and form, right? So for us to vote on this as a food truck doesn't make sense because it's not a food truck, it's a push cart. We have an ordinance that governs push carts at this point in time. It might not be the answer that you want to see in terms of push carts are prohibited, I believe, in the city of Medford. But from what I'm looking at here and what I see a push cart, not a food truck. I don't see this application as being appropriate for the food truck application process. Listen, if you were here and you said, I want a one-day permit to go to Circle in the Square, which was a big event that we had last week, I would have said, go for it. I share my council's concerns, but I think that there is a solution. And when we look at the draft food truck ordinance that this city hasn't been able to put their head around since 2016 now, something that I support. I think that the city should have the opportunity to bring food trucks and other opportunities in. I think competition is good for business. It drives costs down. So it's always a good thing for the consumer. It also creates better product for the consumer, right? So it's price control and better product. It's great for the neighborhood. It's great for the economy, right? Don't get me wrong. I think a food truck will be good. Our food truck draft ordinance that we had that's been kicking around now for half a decade has in it a contingency that says that the permit will be offered only if all businesses within 200 feet sign off on it. If Maryland, as long as with the difference, doesn't care, and John at Modern Pastry doesn't care, and they say, yeah, we have no problem with it, then why would we? Right? It's an opportunity to bring something new to the community. It's an opportunity for us to try something different, to liven up a dead space, right? I know we have the chess club down there whenever they're down there in the summertime as well. I know that we've invested a lot of money in this area down here to bring people to the square under prior administrations, and that focus is somewhat stopped. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't at all. I share the concerns that my colleagues reiterated, have mentioned, and I also don't feel as though this has fallen into the right process. But it's something that I think we could come up with a solution on, and maybe, Vic, I don't know what you think about that.
Mr. Schrader.
That was a wicked long point of information. I apologize for that.
Counselor Knight, I was just looking through the ordinance. Are you referring to the peddlers
Yes.
license? Okay. We did take a look at that. We didn't think it applied to food, but we can certainly look at that again. Apologize if this isn't being classified properly.
And yeah, I think also the point was also that we should look comprehensively at all of these, or at the food truck.
I mean, I
Yeah, but
vote yes on the food truck ordinance the way it was presented today, just like I did when it was presented before.
Yeah.
But I agree with Council Knight. Mr. Schrader, if you talk to neighboring, if there isn't an issue with the push cart, if the neighboring businesses allow the 21 to 24 days, I would recommend that maybe we table this until they petition those other businesses, and if those other businesses approve, I would gladly vote for it. If it's, again, it's only for, I believe it's 21 to 24 days.
June's already over pretty much.
All right, so I mean, if they did that and they come back and said to see if we could bring another brick and mortar business, I like the concept because because what the petition is asking for is a trial to bring in hopefully a full-time brick and mortar. Am I correct with that? Is it correct? Right, so I agree with Council Knight. I think that maybe if we can table this, ask our city administration to reach out to the neighboring, I believe there's 4 locations that directly affect that timeline. I don't think they'll, I agree with you. I don't think they'll disagree with me. I just think that we need that. We've been pretty stuck, at least I've been pretty strict on my decisions, and I don't want to throw anybody away or say, I'm not interested, especially with some of the, the downtown empty businesses. I would love to see another business come in. So if we can do that, I appreciate Council Knight bringing that open-minded.
It's also important to point out Mystic Coffee Roaster was there, and they're
Right.
no longer there anymore. They're providing a service.
Yes. Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor
Sorry.
Collins.
Thank you, Vice President Bears, and thank you very much for being before us today. As a small business owner myself who's done pop-ups, I respect you for what you're doing. I appreciate the spirit of reconnaissance to see if a brick and mortar or a community is kind of the space that you'd want to grow roots in. I'm interested by the potential issue just with the permit that's before us. Obviously, if it's not appropriate, there's something to figure out there. That's something that I think, procedurally we should run down. But in terms of next steps, as was stated, where, if we table this for 1 week, we're in July, and then if we're thinking about Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, that winnows it down to 12 or 13 days that are potentially in, when you'd be overlapping with hours of service at other brick and mortars locally. So my inclination would be, if we get the procedural kinks worked out, I'd love to see you pop up, especially since you have a demonstrated interest in seeing if this is a community that you could grow roots in. I think that'd be great. I like that you're a nonprofit. It sounds great on paper. I guess I'm curious to hear from my fellow councilors, procedurally, what's the next step? If it's really limited to less than, 2 weeks of business days, how we can go forward from here to give you your shot at sussing out if downtown Medford is a place that you can grow in, and to make sure that we're, giving credence to the shops that are already in Medford Square.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, and if Victor can just identify what he falls into as conservation, because we've turned down hot dog carts and other things that wanted to pop up on different areas of the city, and they've been turned down in the past. So, we have to figure out, what he falls into. Is he a peddler, or is he? No, I mean, again, what he falls into? Is he a food truck, or is he a food cart? Is he is he a push cart? So that's I think that's really the issue that we have to figure out. Like I said, because we have turned down hot dog people, and people want to do sandwiches, and they want to park in different private areas, and they've been turned down in the past. So just want to make sure that we do it right, and if I'm sure Victor and his staff can figure it out within a week. So.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. And I just want to say, as you can tell by the terminology we're using, some of our ordinances are a little old.
Gotcha.
And I think in the intent of this council, certainly, or at least of myself as a councilor, it sounds like the intent of the council is that we'd like to, in the long run, modernize our ordinances because we want to create on-ramps for businesses like yours to test it out. See, I mean, I think wouldn't it be great to have another coffee house instead of another bank and another, insurance company? No offense to our wonderful banks and insurance companies, but we have quite a few of them in Medford Square, and it's not a lot of foot traffic. I just want to make that point. We're in a little bit of a procedural thing. It sounded like there was a motion to table this maybe for 1 week and ask Victor Schrader to review to make sure that this is allowed under the push carts,
Right.
as well as to reach out to the neighboring businesses that may be
Which I think
affected.
is 3, right? And letting them know it's only 21 to 24 days, probably less now, but, I really want to support this. So I think that, but again, we have to be fair. Again, this is where we don't have legal representation to help us. And I don't want us to be in a point where we agree for something, then it comes back to say, past practice, we've done this, and then it hurts us. So I apologize, procedural has nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, we're a bit of a mess when it comes to legal representation, when it comes to our council, so it's gotten us into a little trouble.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilor Knight, then I think Mr. Schrader.
Yes.
When did you submit your application?
I'm sorry, what
When
was
did you
that?
submit your application? How long was the application process?
I think I started it beginning of this month.
This month. Okay, all right. So it was relatively quick
I
turnaround.
think it is like the 2nd was the day I finalized everything. Turned everything in.
And welcome to Medford, right? We don't want to give a bad taste. We don't want a bad taste in your mouth.
No.
We're glad that you want to invest in our community, right? And I don't think it sounds like that somewhat, you know what I mean? So
It could be Boston. Boston's worse, though. Trust me.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Obviously, this is something I think that, on a commitment from the majority of this body, it was something we want to work out, even if we create a pilot program and do something like that.
I'll gladly be the pilot program.
Right, exactly, right? So, I think that's just something that maybe we can put a little bit
For
of.
just a
creative-
week, I mean, if we could
Yeah.
just, if Victor can do that, I mean,
he's ready. If
Okay.
Victor, could you let us know if that's possible to look at this over the next week and we can make a decision next week?
Absolutely. We'll jump right on it.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it was the question around the push carts as well as the neighboring businesses that may be affected. So thank you, Mr. Schrader. You have a question? You can ask it.
Thanks. I was just going to ask the proponent if you're planning on moving the cart from place to place or being stationary in one location.
I think just the target area, when we looked around, what would be the ideal spot? I think that was just to get a general idea of what the community's looking at. That's a focal area. It's a spot where people come to,
The chess area?
Yeah, the chess
Right,
area.
okay.
It just,
That's
it seems like a nice area for
Right.
getting a feel for what the community likes.
Stationary.
Yes, it is stationary. I have to have wheels on it for Boston, but it's stationary. There's a lot of things for Boston I got to do.
Okay.
Okay,
Councilor
thank you.
Carviallo.
As I look at this, I know the place right across the street where you're gonna go, they're closed Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They're not open because they felt that business is dead. But would you think of maybe changing your hours to maybe later in the day when there's actually people in the square? I mean, no disrespect to you, maybe, you know your business, but I don't know how many people in the square at 7 o'clock in the morning, that are gonna walk, again, not much traffic, but I think, if you maybe tried it on, maybe on a couple of weekends, maybe, 12 to 4, maybe.
No, that sounds great. We're already, the two locations downtown and the Fenway
Yeah.
area, we're going from, we were at 7 to noon and now we're going from 10 to
Yeah.
4. So it's kind of that's the whole idea of just kind of like get a feel of what it's
Yeah,
like.
let's say, there's not a lot of foot traffic in Memphis Square between 7 and 11. Maybe if you look at your, maybe you want to change your days, maybe you do, Friday, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe, Thursday, and maybe a little later in the afternoon when you get that afternoon crowd.
Will you show up?
Ricky doesn't like to go to coffee shops.
As you notice, I haven't missed many meals in my life. But no, because, maybe, again, as a business person, I don't see that 7 o'clock
No, it's
crowd in the square. Whereas, there's more people in the afternoon that utilize that plaza. Maybe you want to do it on the, maybe on the weekend, say it's your business, do what you want, but, drive around Memphis Square on Monday.
Maybe it's Wright's Pond.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Wright's Pond, I mean, you got.
You make a killing.
If I may not lead
Well,
us
listen,
down a
maybe
rabbit
if you
hole
look to
here.
maybe adjust your hours,
Good
maybe,
enough.
and, for your own business practice and see how many people that are there, maybe from 11 to 2,
Thank you.
versus, 7 to 11.
Thank you, Councilor Caraviallo. It sounds like Mr. Schrader is more than amenable to look
Yeah,
at
Vic,
this,
he wants a job.
move it forward, and maybe
Ricky
there's
wants a
a-
job.
an amend, maybe potentially some amendments if necessary. So it sounds like that communication is going to happen. So I'm hearing on the motion of Councilor Scarpelli to table for 1 week pending some review by our friends. Oh, do you want to speak, Councilor Collins? I'm sorry. Oh, you're seconding. On the motion of Councilor Scarpelli to table for 1 week, seconded by Councilor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Well,
President,
while under
We
suspension,
wouldn't make the gentleman come back next week.
No,
He
you
can Zoom
now-
in, right?
You can
Right.
zoom in next week.
you don't have to come back.
Just coordinate with.
He
coordinate
wakes
with
up
Mr.
early to
Schrader.
sell coffee, so.
If we can, while under suspension.
We did have Councilor Collins' motion to take communications from the mayor, so we have one more paper.
Okay,
and then-
yep. Thank you.
So we have paper 22-408, June 15th, 2022, to the Honorable President, members of the Medford City Council, City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts, 02155. Fiscal year 2023 budget submission. Dear President Morrell and members of the City Council, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 32, I respectfully request and recommend the City Council approve the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget as submitted. The total submitted appropriation for all departments, including schools, is, and this number is actually changed over the weekend, so let me get the right one in front of me, is $201,154,843.02. Account details will be included within the budget presentation, which will be available electronically on June 21st, 2022, in an interactive and searchable format via the city's website at medfordma.org/mayor/city-budget. Would folks like me to read? the
Mr.
rest?
President, I would like to request a hard copy budget book, as we've received in the previous.
I'm technically not done reading. Could someone move to waive the reading? Motion to waive the reading. It's just the reading of the salaries and expenses. We can do this in the future. So on the motion of Council Knight, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli to waive the reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to go to Councilor Collins and then Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Vice President Beers. The full electronic copy of the budget may be online right now. When I left my house at 4:30, it was not. I haven't had a chance to review the budget. Goes without saying, I respect the state deadline for issuing this budget to us, but I haven't had a chance to look at it, and so I don't feel comfortable voting on it, so I'd motion to table for 1 week.
Okay, just if I may, just before there's a second on that motion, Councilor Knight, you're requesting something before we have? Councilor Knight has moved to request that we get a hard copy of the fiscal year 2023 budget book for the city of Medford, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. On the motion of Councilor Collins to table for 1 week due to that we have not completed all of our budget hearings, have not had time to review a complete budget book, and a myriad of other issues, seconded by Councilor Sang. All those in favor on the motion to table for 1 week? Opposed? Motion passes. If I may, actually, Councilor Carvalho, could you take over for me for a minute?
Council Scarpelli.
Business. She was here for public participation, but it's paper 22-XXX. If she can come up and, it's a public.
Oh, okay.
We can't take action, right? She can.
She can speak.
She can speak, correct.
Yeah, that's why it has my
Right,
number.
right.
Yeah, if you'd like to come up and speak, that'd be fine. And again.
So just so you understand what it is we can hear you because where it falls is unfinished business. We can hear the situation, but we can't rule on anything, just so you know that
Okay,
publicly.
that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Name and address of the record, please.
My name is Erica Schatz. My address is 5 Cabot Road, apartment 127, Medford. I'm actually here about my mom's address, which is 101 Sydney Street. I've been elusively trying to get an appointment with the mayor because I was guaranteed my sidewalks would be finished in October by DPW engineering and the tree warden, and they're not finished. They never even started. And now they're trying to say it's because of the trees, but my sidewalk's not lifting because of the trees. There's actually no drainage in the circle. And when I showed these lovely photos to the head engineer, he said that the sidewalk is not sinking. A truck parked on my curb and made my curb flush with the street. My mom, who is disabled, has fallen, and she chose not to sue the city because they'd say, well, it's your sidewalk, you should know it's messed up. And other people have fallen, but because it's not a high traffic area, apparently we're very low on the list. And Mike Marks was helping me prior to January, and that's when they said, oh, they'll be done in October. And October came and went, and no sidewalks.
Yeah, we apologize for the oversight. Again, if we could take a look, pictures are becoming around, we can take a look.
I mean,
but,
one of my sidewalks, the slab is lifted literally 4 inches from the rest of the sidewalk.
Council Knight, did you want to speak?
I just had a question. I was wondering if this street was a private way.
It is not.
It is not. Okay.
It's
that's
a
important.
cul-de-sac, but it's not a private way.
Okay, that's important. Because
But
they
apparently it's a low traffic.
put you on the list and they'd be on the list forever because they don't do private ways. So that's,
If it was a private way,
Yeah.
I would have done it myself.
Okay.
Because I'm at the point where I'm ready to do it myself. And then they tried saying that they could only do asphalt,
they started already on that.
What was that address again?
101 Sydney Street.
Okay.
Correct.
It looks
But
just like,
because of a lack of drainage, the curbing is sinking and the sidewalk is sinking, and it's affecting the entire circle. I measured every curb and none of them are the standard 6 inches. It's about an inch off the street now
sounds like a basic.
because the nearest drain is about 3 houses away from the cul-de-sac. That's my mom's injuries, yes.
Maybe the chief of staff's on the call and she can ask, she can help set up an appointment with you. and
I've
your-
been trying to get an appointment
Yeah.
and
Mr. President, is the chief of staff on the call still?
Madam Chief of Staff, are you still on the call here? I don't.
We moved to take the budget off the table. How fast do you think she'll come back?
I apologize that there's nobody here to answer the question. I said, I don't see the chief of staff here, looking at the computer. Then maybe give you a little bit of help here.
Mr. President, if we can,
Council
if we
Scarpelli.
could just have the petitioner, if she can reach out to the clerk and maybe put on next week's agenda so
Yeah.
we can lead her to.
We'll make sure the engineer's here also.
And you don't have to be here in person. If you're, we saw the pictures. If you want to call in from Zoom, we can do that.
Oh, I'll come.
Okay.
It's a suggestion of the clerk that one of the council members put
Put it
this on the
on.
agenda for
Yeah.
next week.
Okay, we'll do that.
And this way, and then we can vote on it next week. And whoever puts it on the agenda, please put down, please invite the city engineer and someone from DPW maybe to attend.
I mean, she wants a meeting with the mayor.
Well, I tried going through the mayor first because that's the
Yeah.
proper
Well,
channels, but
We can't facilitate a meeting with the mayor, we know.
I can't get through to anybody.
We'll ask everybody to
We have a
come.
chief
Whoever
of staff,
shows,
right?
shows.
We have a chief of staff that's
Yep.
supposed to be responsible for this stuff, because I don't know what else they do.
Yeah.
Right? So this is something that the chief of staff should handle it. All right, we have a chief of people or whatever. We have an HR director to handle HR. We have a budget director to handle the budget. We have a chief of staff that handles what?
Well,
Us.
we also have, and, we can have, that's an issue of handicap accessibility. If it's saying that a resident is legally handicapped and
She's
disabled, excuse me, and we have an issue in front of their residents, this is something that we'll make a resolution and we'll bring it forth next week with
Okay.
inviting all the parties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will have that on our agenda for next week, and we will invite, who are we inviting? Sorry.
We got nothing.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor? Regular order of business? Oh, no, regular order of business perhaps, or? Oh, motion to receive and place on file, seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Motion to revert back to the regular order of business, Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion passes. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. The records of the meeting of June 14th, 2022 were passed to Counselor Caraviallo. How'd you find those records? Thank you, Counselor Caraviallo. The motion of Counselor Caraviallo to approve, seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor? All those in favor? Aye. I have all those in favor? All right, I only heard two people. I can't. All right, all those in favor, none opposed, motion passes. Reports of committees, 22-354, June 11th, 2022. Committee of the whole report to follow. This was our first committee meeting on the city budget. Motion to approve. And honestly, it's June 11th, June 14th, 215, all on the budget. Motion to join and approve all three committee reports and report out any questions, seconded by Counselor Knight. That's the motion of Counselor Caraviallo, seconded by Counselor Knight. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Announcements, accolades, and remembrances, 22-380, offered by Counselor Scarpelli and Counselor Caraviallo. Be it so resolved that the city council send our sincere condolences to the family of Richard Edward Fitzpatrick Sr. Mr. Fitzpatrick proudly served in the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II and again in the Korean War. Mr. Fitzpatrick was a loyal member of our Medford community. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate reading this resolution. I know that Mr. Fitzpatrick, longtime Medford resident, well-known Medford family, loved Medford, and very proud of his Korean War, being a veteran and supporting our country. And sad day in our neighborhood that Mr. Fitzpatrick has now passed on, and we send his family deepest condolences. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Caraviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Council Scarpelli mentioned, the Fitzpatrick family is a longtime Medford family. As a gentleman served in World War II. And there's not many World War II veterans left in this community. And his passing is a loss to us again. And my condolences go out to the family.
Thank you, Counselor Caraviallo. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much, and thank you to my colleagues for putting this on. Mr. Fitzpatrick was a great guy. I had the opportunity to meet him on a couple of occasions at the American Legion through various community events that were going on with his sons, Sean and Brian, were both close friends, both following their father's footsteps with a commitment to service, with a commitment to the veterans in this community. And they've given a lot, instrumental in decorating graves on Memorial Day and the like. Really just great individuals that give back to the city that they're raised in, that they live in. The Fitzgeralds are great people, Fitzpatrick, great people, and Mr. Fitzpatrick's going to be sadly missed. I offer my condolences as well.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. On the motion of Counselor Scarpelli and Counselor Caraviallo, seconded by Counselor Knight. All those in favor?
Right.
All those opposed? Motion passes. If we could all rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. Motions, orders, and resolutions. 22-389, offered by Counselor Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council requests that the Board of Health establish a tick remediation program within the city of Medford. Counselor Knight.
Yes, Mr. President, if any of us have watched the news, we've seen that it's going to be a bad season this year for ticks, and the city of Medford is very blessed to have a great deal of open space. The Middlesex Fells, the Medford Woods, and 22 active and passive parks across our community. But with that comes the concern that we will be a breeding ground for ticks. So I'm asking that the Board of Health put together a mediation program, report back to the council what the cost would be, and whether or not this is something we can work on funding so that we can keep our community safe from a public health standpoint.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the motion of Counselor Knight to approve, seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 22-390.
President
Counselor Collins.
I'd like to withdraw the motion.
Counselor Collins has withdrawn. 22-390. 22-391, offered by Counselor Caraviallo. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council requests an independent outside audit of the city of Medford's municipal departments and Medford Public Schools. Counselor Caraviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, seeing that we're in these difficult financial times, I know the city does an audit, but in the past, I remember getting a copy of the audit and meeting with bond counsel about where we stand. I can't remember, it's been probably 3 years, maybe longer, since we actually sat with bond counsel and met to give us our financial status and met with the auditors to tell us where we're at. So I don't know if the city's done an audit, how recently, because I certainly haven't seen a copy of it, and I don't know, maybe someone else has, and I don't know about it. But I would request that that one be done for both school and the municipal side, and report back to us, and that we also have the opportunity to meet with bond counsel like we have in the future, to let us know where our indebtedness is and where we stand with future bonding capability.
Thank you, Counselor Caraviallo. Counselor Knight.
Yes, Mr. President, I know by mechanism of law, I do believe we're audited every year, but we've been using the same firm, I think, for 2 decades. So at some point, it becomes negligible, right? They're not going to say that they found something, that they missed something last time, right? They're going to figure it out as they go forward. So I think that it might be something we also want to see go out to bid, or be, sent through the Inspector General's office, or maybe through the DCAM list of auditors that might be available and open to us, so that we can pick them from a state approved list of contractors, as opposed to having to put the matter out to bid or to seek private counsel. But I think it's very important that if we do have this audit, that it's done in an open and transparent fashion, and then the administration does conduct informational meetings throughout the process as well. Ultimately, the biggest topic in this community right now is municipal finances. After a little bit of yelling and screaming, the council was able to create enough noise where we found $4 million over in the administration side of things. They found $4 million. So, I think that as it goes forward, we wouldn't be in the situation that they're in right now, not from a financial standpoint, but from a communication standpoint. If the administration stepped up to the plate and shared with us the information that we asked for, and shared with us the information that we needed. All right. And now, as we sit here and we see the circumstances unfold, it gives us a reason to scratch our heads and raise question. So this is a vote that I'm happy to take this evening. I hope that we're doing things the right way. I hope that we're not mismanaging our money financially, but right now, track record shows that we are. So I think this is a responsible resolution. I think it's a responsible course of action. The question's going to lie in who's going to conduct the audit, and whether or not it's going to be the same group that's been doing it year in and year out, or if we're going to go and have some new fresh eyes on it.
Thank you. Yes,
Mr.
Counselor
President,
Caraviallo.
I didn't put it in there, but if you can amend that to, the administration has set up a meeting with our bond counsel, so we could, so they can give us an update where we stand with our bond rating and future borrowing capability.
Yes.
I said, we have had it in the past, but I don't think we've had one in a few years.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion from members of the council? If I may, from the chair, I'd just like to add to this that, it seems like by the end of the year, when we have to go to the state and certify everything, we get everything together. But it seems like potentially as up to as much as the other 11 months of the year, it's hard to find out what's going on. I think one of the reasons that we found that out is because we have all these different financial software that doesn't talk to each other. And, never mind the fact that, that was a problem before. Then we didn't have, staff around for 10 months there. And I just want to add one more thing before you go, Councilor Knight. I was looking at the capital improvement plan that was proposed in 2021, and it didn't plan to address the issue with financial software until at least fiscal year 2024. And that was assuming we had money to do it. If we had addressed that 2 years ago, then we wouldn't have been in the position of not having the information that we need at the time that we needed to make the decisions that the community entrusts us to make and have the information that the community wants. So, I'm not amending this resolution, but I just want to add to the point that if we were prioritizing this issue, as the council has filed councilors have filed many motions, the council has approved, this is another one in a list of financial responsibility measures, for lack of a better term, that we may have more information at a more timely way and would have been able to see what's happened over the last 3 weeks coming. So with that, I'll go to Councilor Knight.
Just to reiterate your point, Mr. President, I guess it is obvious that the financial software isn't the only thing in this building that doesn't talk to each other.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. On the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by Councilor Knight, as amended by Councilor Carviallo, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. The next 5 are mine. I don't know if you want to. Okay, and I have no problem with joining them I have no problem with joining the first 4 into one motion. I would like to take 22-396 separately. On the motion of Councilor Knight to join papers 22-392, 22-393, 22-394, and 22-395, as seconded by Councilor Sang. All those in favor? Opposed? Those motions are joined. I will read them here. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the city administration create a process to determine the actual budget needs deficit for the city of Medford's operating budget and capital needs. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the city administration develop and release a revenue generation plan to eliminate the budget needs deficit, set goals and benchmarks that can be tracked, and provide a clear and reasonable timeline over the next 10 years. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the city administration release all information and a clear timeline for the fiscal 23 budget decision-making and when any assumptions were made about the FY23 ARPA revenue replacement calculation that led to last-minute reductions in the FY23 proposed budget. And be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the city administration release a full accounting of ARPA funds spent in FY21 and FY22, share how much ARPA funding is remaining after FY22, and outline the timeline and spending plan or community outreach plan for remaining ARPA funds. I think those are self-explanatory on my part, so I will go to my fellow councilors for comment.
Mr. President, I certainly support them wholeheartedly. I think these are very reflective of some of the comments that we had last week at our budget meeting when we discussed, what's going on in this community from a financial standpoint. A lot's changed from last Tuesday to this Tuesday, obviously, with the Boston Globe coming out over the weekend. But ultimately, I think that these are responsible questions that make sense that put us in a position to make smart decisions, right? Ultimately, we want to create a long-term successful future for our community. We want to have the confidence in the ability to know that our taxpayers are going to receive the level of services that they so deserve. And I think that this is information that's pretty much, plain and simple. They get it in other communities. I don't understand why we can't get it here. So thank you for putting it forward, and I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. I also look forward to supporting each of these tonight. I just wanted to make 2 points in support. The first around the measures to get some measure of transparency, greater measure of transparency into our budget process. So often, and not even just kind of constellating around this year's budget process, I hear from constituents saying, why is it the roads aren't getting better? Why can't we improve our infrastructure? Why is it like this? Why is that like that? Why don't we have this resource that our neighboring communities, cities that seem similar to ours do have? And I think a lot of the time, not all the time, a lot of the time, constituents, when they pose these questions to our administration and department heads, a lot of much of the time, the answer boils down to, well, we're doing the best that we can, and that's true. Like, no grievance that we or constituents have about the operating of this city comes down to lack of skill or lack of dedication or lack of energy by any of our city staff that are tasked with taking these projects on. But when we say we're doing the best that we can, that's not descriptive. We need a better accounting of, well, why is the ceiling right here? And is it actually enough? We need to get specific on everything that we're deferring, every project that we're deferring, all the priorities that we can talk about and write about and plan about, but fail to implement because we don't have the funds. Like I said in our committee of the whole earlier about the school department budget, our values don't really matter for much if we can't act on them, and we can't act on them if we can't fund them. So I think that these are essential tools for both being more transparent and informative with our constituent base, who ultimately see the decisions that filter through or don't filter through our real capacity. And then secondly, to follow up on that, I think over the past couple of years, year and a half, the specter of ARPA, has been cast over our community like it has so many. And I think that there's been real room for improvement in how this funding has been talked about, how it's been speculated about. And that's not something that I would attribute to any one person at all, to be honest. I think that, a real historic infusion of one-time funds, so rapidly evolving during a rapidly evolving time. There's always going to be ways to imagine that. And then the rubber hits the road of how it can actually be implemented. But I think that the past couple weeks have made it clear that we need to start getting much more specific, much more concrete about how much of these funds we have left and how much will be left to implement community articulated priorities. I know that we have, an excellent staff member who, themselves is ARPA funded, working on this very project of making sure that we're being responsible with our ARPA funding. But I also think that there's been a lot of competing narratives about how much money is available, how much will be directed by, with the input of the community, what goes through the council, what doesn't go through the council. I just think that there's a real lack of clarity that, again, is not the fault of any one person at all. But I think we need to start cleaning that up right now, because this is such a live issue, not just in this funding cycle, but clearly for the next one as well. So I thank you for putting these forward. I think they're essential. And I hope that we can partner with the administration on really seeing these through.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, man, Mr. President. And again, we're not looking to find faults. We're looking to find solutions. That's what it is. We're not looking to blame. How do we get here and how do we get out of it? That's the goal for everybody here.
Thank you, Councilor Singh.
I think what this council wants and what constituents are demanding is that we, as a city, have better long-term planning, have more accountability. These are basic standards of city government or of any government. And so I'm going to keep it simple. I support this wholeheartedly. And these are resolutions that will really help, I think, will really set us on a course forward towards a better budget in the future, and to make sure that we're not caught so last minute in the future. So I thank you for putting this on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. If someone could offer an amendment from the floor, just to that these be immediately disseminated to the mayor's office and the chief of staff, instead of waiting 1 week for the records to be approved. If someone could.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Singh. On the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by Councilor Collins, to approve as amended by Councilor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Yes, seconded by Councilor Carviallo, as amended by Councilor Singh.
Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins. Yes. Councilor Knight. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Councilor Singh. Yes. President Rowe is absent. Vice President Bears.
Yes, 16 affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Again, if no one minds me reading from the chair, this is 22-396, offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that no later than July 14th, 2022, the mayor and city administration must demonstrate in writing that a Proposition 2.5 override is not needed to end the short-term structural deficit and avoid further budget and service cuts in the FY24 budget, as was previously stated by members of the city administration in recent meetings. Be it further resolved that the city administration will explain the alternative option they will be using to end the structural deficit while avoiding further budget and service cuts in fiscal year 2024. This one's a little bit less self-explanatory, so I will just add, as we saw in previous meetings, and then we actually heard in the Boston Globe, and we read in the Boston Globe, the plan right now for the budget issues that we're in the short term is to keep cutting. I don't think that that's a solution that the people of Medford want. We haven't heard if there is a potential alternative plan. The statutory deadline for anything to be considered this year relative to an override is August 3rd. It would have to be submitted to the Secretary of State's office. All this resolution is saying is I would like the mayor to demonstrate to us what is the alternative that she is proposing to avoid budget cuts, and not raise revenue through this process. So that's the intent of this resolution. I said July 14th because that would allow us some time to consider whatever response we get and then make an informed decision based on the information we have. So that's the intent of this resolution. It's certainly not anything more than that at this time. Councilor Knight.
So Councilor Bears, as I'm understanding this is more of a planning tool than
Right.
actually a step towards putting an override measure on the ballot, but more or less a planning tool is to say to the mayor, Madam Mayor, we see what's going on in this community. Do you see something different? And if you do, how are you going to tackle it financially?
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
I just want to be very clear
Correct.
that, this isn't the beginning of a 2.5 override ballot question. What this is us getting information from the city administration necessary for us to make a determination as to what direction the city's going to go in.
Correct.
But it's a planning tool, really, where we're asking the administration to say, this is where we are, this is where we need to be. How can we get there without doing this?
Right.
Not, we need to do this, so immediately do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
And
thank you.
yeah, and again, my intention here is to say, if it can be at all avoided, just show us how you're going to avoid it. That's all this resolution is asking for. So
Move approval.
thank you.
Second.
Any further comment? On the motion of Councilor Knight to approve, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. And could this also, could there be an amendment from the floor? This also be amended by Councilor saying that this be immediately submitted to the mayor and chief of staff.
Yes.
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 Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. 22-397, if a motion from the floor to table until our July meeting could be made.
So moved.
On the motion of Councilor saying to table paper 22-397 until our July meeting, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. 22-398, offered by Councilor Singh. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council requests that the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority communicate its bus network redesign plan to and solicit feedback from residents in senior living facilities and nursing homes. Councilor Singh.
Thank you, Councilor Bears. This is a response to the public participation that we heard last week. And frankly, to also for feedback that I've been receiving that and seeing online in my email and on Facebook that the MBTA redesign plan has, there's still a lot of people who are left out of the current communication plan, especially those living in senior living facilities and in nursing homes. And these are people who might have to use the MBTA bus services or who have people visiting them who use the MBTA bus services. And so they deserve, just as with anyone else, to be able to give feedback to this bus redesign network plan, bus network redesign plan. And so this is a simple resolution to ask the MBTA to communicate with those living in Medford who might not have had that chance to hear about the plan or get feedback to the plan yet.
On the motion of Counselor Singh, seconded by Counselor Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 22-399, offered by Counselor Singh. Be it resolved that the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion ensure that all city communications are inclusive of all necessary information for residents without access to computers or the internet. Counselor Singh.
This is, again, something that we heard from public participation and something that I know has been of concern to a lot of residents. We want to make sure that, when the city is communicating information, you don't have to have a computer or you don't have to have access to the internet to get that information. We want to make sure that no one's being left out of our messaging campaigns and no one's not receiving information. And so this is another simple resolution to ask the DEI director to make sure that our city communications are being inclusive. And I think, this is something that completely matches with her goals as she was telling the council when she was before us.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. On the motion of Counselor Singh, seconded by Counselor Knight. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Motion to take papers in the hands of the clerk by Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Caraviallo. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 22-410. Offered by Counselor Knight, whereas the city of Medford faces a structural deficit within its operating budget, be it so resolved, the city administration examine the feasibility of increasing the amount of certain fines and fees to create revenue to offset the budgetary gap, and be it further resolved that the city administration provide the council with this analysis prior to the close of the fiscal year. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Just a few minutes earlier this evening, we had a gentleman before us who talked a little bit about a project that he wanted to do in an O2 district that we just created. And as part of that discussion, we talked about how much money would be generated through these property taxes, right? And I'm just trying to find my notes here because I want to see how much money he said it was in permits. It was $15 per 1,000 square feet for the project. So I'm wondering, Mr. President, with the number of life science projects that are now coming online here in the community, and with the structural deficit that we see, whether or not it would make sense for us to raise that or to even attach permitting fees to the rate of inflation. So that we don't have to get to a situation where annually or biannually or semi-annually, or, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think these things have been looked at since the McGlynn administration. They can self-adjust based upon the inflation rate annually, as opposed to us having to pass an ordinance every year saying that this is what they're going to be. So I think it might be an opportunity for us to generate some revenue to close the budget gap, and to do so in a way that's going to be recurring and not be on the back of the residential taxpayer.
Thank you, Counselor Knight.
In the other paper, Mr. President, I will withdraw, by the way.
Counselor Caraviallo.
Thank you. Like Council Knight says, maybe we, look at what other communities are charging. We don't even know when the last time this has gone up. So, gives the building department a chance to just, I'm sure they communicate with the local cities and see what our neighboring communities are charging for that rate. So, I second this motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Caraviallo. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 22-411, be it so resolved that the city administration examine the feasibility of auctioning off surplus withdrawn. Oh, my apologies, withdrawn. Hold on, I want to make sure there's nothing left on here. Yes.
Since the motion that Councilor Knight withdrew was offered under suspension and then was never actually on the agenda, does that go on to the records or does that not go on to the records?
I don't believe it.
It was never introduced.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna just, I know we have potentially a motion adjourned, but just want to give one last opportunity, public participation, anyone in the audience here or anyone on Zoom, if you can raise your hand for public participation, please let us know. Seeing none, I will entertain Counselor Knight's motion to adjourn, seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor? All those opposed? The meeting is adjourned. And we will be convening tomorrow at 6 PM for further budget hearings. Thank you.